Orly Borlstein, and I saw Your Name and Weathering You. Oh, I saw Your Name a few days ago, and I saw Weathering You last night. And there really isn't a lot to say about Your Name in terms of not just kind of going over what works, because the film was pretty much a 9 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10. It's great, has great music, is very honed in on the characters that matter, and then you see enough of the characters in the periphery where they're there, but we're not wasting any time. And the story, despite its complexities, uses a lot of very smart editing and narrative tools to keep the audience in the loop, and doesn't overly rely on, basically retelling you the whole movie so you remember something. I mean, that does come up a little bit, but they contextualize it in a way that makes sense. So there really isn't much to say about Your Name. It's a great fucking movie. It's like a 9 or 10 out of 10. It comes close to achieving the Steins Gate visual novel ending, in that you just want to see the two characters in the movie be happy. You just want to see them happy. And that's the greatest thing a romance movie can really do. So Your Name, 9 or 10 out of 10. Just go fucking watch it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to spoil it. Just, it deserves to be seen. But let's go on to Weathering You. Weathering You is just Your Name, but weaker in every capacity except for the music and the visuals 90% of the time. The story deals with a lot darker aspects. We have, children runaways, potential prostitution, sex work for minors. We have homelessness. We have poverty. And those are all the issues that we spend for the first 45 minutes dealing with in the film. And a parental loss is another one. I think everybody in the film has lost somebody, which is another major aspect why they all would want to get somebody back. And there's this kind of pull the other characters, or pressure the other characters apply in the kind of decision that happens. So I'm going to get into spoilers, because you can't really talk about Weathering You without getting into spoilers, other than just going over like, oh, the music's fucking amazing, the visuals are fucking amazing. And then just to repeat what everybody else is probably going to say is that, yeah, the plot and characters are a little bit weaker. They're still good. And if I saw Your Name like 2 years ago, and then I saw this, and I knew the director's other works, then I would have probably been able to buy into the movie better. But unfortunately, because I saw basically the same movie 2 days before, I wasn't able to really buy into it as much. But it's still a good film. I mean, it's like a 7. I mean, there is like a bit of a kind of Mariana's Trench between like this and Your Name. Like, Your Name is just so much better. But this movie, Weathering You, is still good. It still has characters that you care about, and it's a lot more action and comedy oriented, whereas in the first movie, or I'm talking as if it's a sequel now, which it kind of is, as if in Your Name, the character, it's more drama, and the comedy is visual most of the time, and not like, you don't really hear characters say funny things that you kind of laugh at. And then there are some things that the audience laughed at that didn't make any sense, like in a tense scene where a character's shooting a gun and then somebody laughed. Like, I mean, I know people that like anime are autists, but you can generally read the room and you're like, oh, this is a really tense scene. This guy is threatening another guy with a gun to protect this girl from having to go into sex work. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Oh, that's so funny. Like, I don't know. The greatest humor that's found in the film, though, is the preview interview with the director, where he's like, I wanted to make a film that would, appeal to Americans, after the worldwide acclaim of Your Name. So in the beginning of the movie, we got McDonald's and guns. So I kind of felt like maybe the director was trolling the American audience. I mean, most of the people in the theater were Asian anyway, so it wasn't like you were really going to appeal to some fucking middle-class mom. Although I'm sure if she saw the film, she would like it a lot. there really is a lot to talk about with Weathering You. There's not really a lot to talk about with Your Name. Your Name is just a good movie. You just go fucking watch it. That's it. It's a good movie. It does a lot of things right, and I'm not going to spoil it. But Weathering You, I'm going to spoil because there's too much to talk about and why it works and why it doesn't work. So one of the issues in the film is that it is basically the same plot structure, beat for beat, of Your Name. You have the 30 to 45 minute musical, like, the movie kind of pulls away for a second from the plot, from the characters, from the world even, and you have a big sweeping song come in to kind of like restart the movie in a sense. And it happens in this movie. It happens in Your Name, so it's very awkward to see that back to back. But the music is really good, so it kind of saves it from that. And once again, we have a character who is some mystic Shintoism, where they introduce this idea of shrine maidens and this in the sky, reigning forever, and then needing to be sacrificed, and blah 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 blah. And that's once again very similar to the last movie. That's the exact same plot point. Is that you have, except in this film, they treat the character with irreverence. So, initially, one of the biggest things that Weathering You does is that we'll have something happen, and then later on, you will get the context for why that thing happened. For example, early on, the main girl is getting basically being pushed into working at some kind of sex work by some sleazy guy. We don't exactly know what the kind of work is, but we would assume that it's not good. And then the main boy sees this, and he had picked up a gun previously because there was a bunch of guns in Japan or something. And he tries to rescue the girl because forced sex work is pretty fucked up. And then they're running away, and then of course the sleazy guy catches them, and then he's like saying he comes off as like a hentai character, like anime. If you ever seen anime porn, that's how badly this sleazeball character is written. I really did not like this character because that whole situation could have been written with less plot contrivance to get the two characters together. It really seemed like, I don't know, I did not buy his character. He was just so out of place with all the rest of the characters. The rest of the characters were all reasonable human beings. And then you have this sleazeball character who is unreasonable. It's fine that he's unreasonable in the aspect of trying to coerce, more women to work, to do sex work, because that's how he makes money. It's fine that he's unreasonable in that aspect. It's just that the way that it happens, I've seen written in anime porn better, is the problem. This character was written at a 1 out of 10 rate compared to better writing than I've seen. So I didn't like him. I didn't buy it. I thought it was incredibly weak. So that was a big knock against the film. And then also, the girl is like kind of going along with it, and then it's like, is she fucking retarded? Like, what the fuck? Now, later on, and I mean, like, over a fucking hour later, you understand why she was potentially going along with it. And maybe if I understand Japanese culture better, I would have been able to buy into the situation a little bit better. But because I'm a big, dumb fucking gaijin pigu, I wasn't really able to buy into it. So the male kid pulls out a gun, shoots a light bulb, and now that was the part of the movie I really disagree with. I think to justify the cops like coming after this kid so aggressively and all this shit, I think, and to raise the stakes and tension, because the movie really had no stakes or tension. At no point did I really fear for the characters. Like, I feared for the kind of reprisal from their actions, but they never had to suffer any reprisal from their actions. They pretty much get away scot-free, which is pretty fucked up in a movie where they're doing fucked up shit like fighting cops. But maybe it's different in Japan, I don't know. So anyway, I think the kid should have shot the sleazeball. I think that would have made the scene much more tense and made the first meeting between the two characters justifiably tense, because the girl and the guy then run away to like this abandoned building, and he like throws the gun, I think, or something, and then she's like, don't save me, I hate you, blah 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 blah, for kind of putting me in that violent situation. and she's saying it in the very kind of like sundry, like, you know, thank you for saving me kind of way, but she's saying like, oh, don't save me, Baka. You know, that's really how she says it, which is really, I think, pathetic in this movie, because that doesn't happen. The movie isn't written that badly anywhere else except these two scenes, and that was, for me, a hang up for a while, as I just could not get over how poorly written the introduction scene and then the meeting scene were, because they just felt incredibly weak. And then she walks away, and you think like, oh fuck, like their first meeting is pretty bad. There's gonna have to be another meeting where he's gonna endear himself to her. But then she like comes back and starts saying some random bullshit. And then even after that, I didn't leave that scene thinking that, yeah, they're gonna meet up again. And then the next thing, it's like, oh, he's got a date, and he's going over to her house, and she's gonna make food for him. And it was like, what the fuck? Like, did I miss something here? Like that was not, like, if you're a non-autist, like if you don't have Asperger's or some kind of social functioning disability, you leave that scene thinking, oh, they need to like meet again and have a better chat, because whew, they really didn't hit it off there. But no, it's just, yeah, they're hanging out at our house now. And it's like, what the fuck? Why? How did that happen? So whatever. That's the only weak part of the movie. So then we go on with the plot. Blah 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 blah. The same stupid shit from Your Name, except bad. And Your Name has stupid shit, but it's done like, Your Name is an example of doing something that, like, if you pitch the idea to a studio, or you pitch the idea to a friend, it'd be like, that's fucking stupid, dude. And then when you see it executed, you're like, wow, you fucking did it. You fucking nailed it. You made it not stupid. You took something dumb as fuck and made it great. That's the power of Your Name. Weathering You was like, oh, hey, remember when I did that thing again? I'm going to do it again, but just write everything a little bit worse and whatever. Now, Weathering You does have differences that are not comparable. And one of them is that there are many characters in the movie, and they all feel relatively fleshed out and mostly exist for comedic effect, unfortunately. The younger brother of the main girl pretty much is just a running gag of being a Giga Chad, and he's not annoying. I was very afraid his character was going to be like a cock blocking annoying thing, but he seems to want his sister to have some teen romance, so that's good. He is a good character. He wasn't a fucking annoying piece of shit, which I was afraid of. And then there's the niece of the Mr. Suga guy who takes in the main character, Hodaka, I think is his name. I can't remember names of people in these movies. Unless you put the name of the movie, or the name of the character in the name of the movie, I'm never gonna fucking remember. But yeah, there's an older gentleman that takes in the main character when he gets to Tokyo, because he's a runaway. And then that character has a niece who he believes is actually dating, or like is the mistress of that guy. And her character was also like pretty much there for comedic effect. I mean, but she also felt like a real person. You see her going to these interviews and stuff like that. So you see these characters in the film struggling with real issues. So they did a really good job with that, to show the kind of difficulties of living in modern life, trying to get a job, you know, trying to just make your way. And it's difficult. But they also kind of have a little bit of comedy to kind of make it not seem so depressing, which I thought maybe that was why the film had so much comedy, is because the initial way the film sets itself up is that you have these depressing topics, but we can still have fun with it. So you have a lot of comedic characters who are in depressing scenarios, which is really how that kind of stuff, you know, that is when you're in, you know, a really stressful, shitty environment or work environment. Sometimes, at the very least, you can kind of laugh about it in a way and have some fun. And I've been at a few places like that. So Weathering You has some great musical, it feels like a music video, really. When the music comes in, it's like this big fucking thing, and it's like, it feels like it's something different from the movie, actually. And the music is fucking great. The song that plays at the end is if I never saw Your Name, I would have been crying, because it's so fucking good, because it hits write exactly the feelings that the main character is going through when he's like, you know, I so long ago I never got to say what I wanted to say, and now I'm finally here. And then like the lyrics come on, and the lyrics, oh, they're a tearjerker because it's like I don't know if they're translated right, because like in English the lyrics sound dumb, but like in the Japanese they sound cooler. Because like I think the subtitles for the song was like, uh, I am little, or I might be little, or something to do that he's small but he has a very big dream, and that was just, oof, that was pretty good. I'm getting a little sad just thinking about it, but unfortunately Your Name did it all better, so I wasn't able to feel as much with this film, unfortunately, which really sucked. And then there's one other problematic issue in the film I need to talk about that a lot of people are brushing aside in the discussions I've seen online, and the justification they use to brush this topic aside is that the author said this. So I don't give a fuck what the author says about a work. I really don't. The reality is that the author will not always be around to tell people what he thought. And the author's words written down will not always be directly connected to the artwork that is created. That's why the intention has to be in the film. That's why reading film is important. Now, there is another kind of film analysis one can do that looks at the auteurship. You know, if I were to review, many of Mr. Shinkai's movies, then I could use his other works and his other themes and what I understand about him from those movies to assess this film. And I'm using that a little bit because of the comparisons between the two films, but I'm not going to use that to explain the plot of the film or to explain what he was going for with his intentions. So one of the problematic aspects to Weathering You is that I believe the film is advocating for climate fatalism. It's very strange. So at one point in the film, character is talking about how the weather is so abnormal, and then we have a dumb fucking boomer grandma who's like, oh well, or no, maybe it's grandpa, either way it's a dumb fucking boomer, and they're like, oh yeah, recorded history only started 100 years ago. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, dumb fucking boomer, but recorded history actually started much more a while ago, not just 100 years. I know that's when, you shoved a fucking paper quill, a fucking feather quill in your ass and started, smearing shit on your face. But other places were actually recording things. So, yeah, recorded history is a little bit more than 100 years, Grandpa. I'm sorry. You're fucking wrong. So, point against the dumb fucking boomer. But the dumb fucking boomer is like, 1,000 years ago, whatever, Japan was underwater, which is like, is that true? And that might be true in the film. I don't know. If there is a fantastical aspect to the weather, then maybe I don't get it. I felt like that part, maybe I have to know more about Shintoism or some shit. I didn't fucking get it. But this is what I got out of the film. I got out of the film is that we have that scene where basically, long time ago, Japan used to be underwater. Now, Japan maybe is going back underwater. Maybe this is just the cycle of things. Let's not try to fix it. Let's not try to stop it. Let's just slowly die. Okay, that's one boomer's perspective. And then we learn about the Shinto mysticism and the fucking sky dragons and all that shit. And we see them, but it was just like, you didn't really need to go into it with this. We didn't need the sky dragons. We didn't need the fish. We didn't need the sky ecosystems. What we really just needed was Shrine Maiden, weather sacrifice. That's it. That's all we needed. The other stuff was like, just don't, it gives you a justification to have a cool visual later on in the film, but it really didn't do anything for the plot. And the plot at that point was just in service for the visuals. So it was, when the plot is in service of the visuals and the visuals lack proper justification, they become weaker and don't really need to exist. That's just my opinion. But eventually later on, Tokyo's like going down. I think there's another moment in the film where like somebody else kind of makes an argument for basically like, oh, this is what's gonna happen. We can just move away or like whatever, which seems to be fucking stupid, but that's what happens in the film. Is that the girl like sacrifices herself, and I really did not buy that sacrifice scene. The film needed to be cut down in some places and beefed up in others. Like the girl is just like, oh, would you like to see the sunshine again? And like she's kind of like dying because she's using her sunshine power too much, and then she like is like, okay, TTY, see you later, and she just sacrifices herself without even saying goodbye to her brother, who's like right fucking there. That was so fucking bizarre and weird. And then she's in the sky, and then the rain clouds are gone, and then Japan is good. And now, mind you, right before this, like Japan was fucking 10 feet underwater about, and it was snowing, so it was about to be 10 feet under fucking frost. So it was fucked. Tokyo was fucked. But then she saved Tokyo, and everything returns to normal. And then the main character like goes to get her back, and that damns Tokyo. And now I've seen a lot of people online debate this like, oh, did he make the right choice? His waifu or Tokyo? And like, dude, it's a teen romance movie. Tokyo was never in the running. Who gives a fuck about Tokyo? Who gives a fuck? Nobody gives a fuck. Like, who honestly like? Who really was like, oh wow, is he gonna do it, or is he gonna value Tokyo? It's like, dude, he's a fucking runaway kid who has an idealized perspective on life in terms of what romance is. Like, if you're a regular person, you could weight the cost and benefits, and every person will tell you, yeah, one person is worth the life of a whole city. That's what any fucking rational human being would say. But these aren't rational human beings. He's never going to make that choice. Of fucking course not. Why would you ever expect him to? I didn't fucking think that was for a moment, and I don't fucking care. That would be such a boring movie. It's like, okay, yeah, well, you can die for Tokyo now, thank you. Like, no thanks. And that was another huge critique, is that I think she needed to sacrifice herself in a moment of need to save the main character, because she just like basically does it on the lightest of whim, and then just like, woof, there she goes, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, no, you need to have a greater justification than, oh, do you want to see the sun again? Okay, goodbye. And like, what the fuck? Oh, okay, whatever. But yeah, the film really feels like it has this kind of climate fatalism where they're like, oh, Tokyo's underwater now, and everybody moved away, and it's like, dude, Tokyo's not just underwater. Like, and there looked like there was like millions of people there, and considering how fast it was raining, like I've seen people say like, oh, well, like nobody probably died, and it's like, dude, it fucking flooded less where I live like a year ago, and people died in that. You're telling me that people didn't die in the flooding of Tokyo? Or the huge, like, the fucking only skyscrapers you can really see after what happens after the true events, and not like the weather saving shit happens. So those people are fucking idiots. But I mean, once again, anime fans are autists who have no world experience, so they have no idea how to ascertain the truth of the world. I mean, but who gives a fuck? I mean, it's cartoon Tokyo. I mean, nobody gives a fuck about the lives of the people. Now, I do want to bring back in the director's words, because they're relevant, and I think it's funny to add to the point that he said that he wanted to make a movie to address social pressure. So he wanted to make this movie where the main character makes a very unpopular decision among society, and then his intention, he states, is to convince people that you don't always have to do what is pleasing to other people. Now that's noble. I mean, I do things all the time that are not pleasing to other people because I believe I'm right, and I stand by my ideals because I'm an intelligent person, and I argue for what I do. But this movie is not the way to do it. Having some dumb kid sacrifice, a million+ population city that is no doubt going to kill people for the sake of your waifu is just objectively fucking wrong. Like, that's just fucking ridiculous. But there is another perspective to bring in that, you know, these are people. Now this is the galaxy brain take. This is the main thing. This wraps up all the themes of the movie. Is that the main girl is in this situation through no fault of her own. And in fact, it's because of her situation socially that she is now in a position to save everyone at her own detriment. And that thematically ties in with the homelessness, with the parental loss, with the not having any guardians, like not having anybody around. Like, it's just her and her brother, and she's 15. Because she's basically, you know, lacking in any kind of social protection, she's a vulnerable person. And then to her detriment, she can make society better because she was such a good person. But because she was born to such a bad lot in life, she's now in this position, and it's not her responsibility to make the world better. And in fact, you know, if I was her, I'd say fuck it. Why should I have to die for everybody else? That's not fair. And it's her good heart that put her in that position, and that's the ultimate tragedy of it. And the film should have fucking railed in on that. The film should have fucking the film could have fucking been really fucking good there to hone in on the aspect of how their positions in society cause them to be in this horrible, weighty situation. And the ironic thing is that they are not even tied to society. They have no parents. The one kid's a fucking runaway. They're about to be put into sex work, and the main character is homeless. Like, that's the fucking tragic irony, is that their whole society is dependent upon the decision between two children, and the two children have basically, through no fault of their own, and partially no fault of society, but a little bit, have been basically pushed out of society, and they have to live in the shadows and the fringes. That part of the film, that way, that it's fucking genius. The problem is the movie did not hone in on that enough. It didn't hone in on that aspect. And because it didn't, it really lacked to tie the themes together in a way that makes you just like want to bawl your fucking eyes out. But once again, if it did that, it would have been a 10 out of 10. But instead, the film just seems to be like, oh, you know, this is the way the climate is going to change. It's going to rain, you know. The old grandpas seem to be woke enough to know that, like, if we sacrifice a shrine maiden, then we can make the world or Tokyo not drown. But if it does, oh well. Like, a lot of the characters just have this perspective who speak on climate are, oh, if it's gonna rain or whatever, then that's just the course of nature and we shouldn't do anything about it. And that is, like, fucking dangerous and stupid and objectively fucking wrong. It seems to, like, trying to undercut man-made climate change. And I guess in the film it's magical, but I didn't really, that part felt really weak. And I was really like, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's magical. If you're producing a work that is in stark contrast to reality, but you use so many other aspects of reality and change one, it's just bad propaganda. You know, like, you're not tricking me. You might trick retards who are like, oh yeah, like, climate change, that's not fucking real, that's magic. Or climate change, we shouldn't do anything about it because that's the way the Earth's gonna be. It doesn't matter if you're using Tokyo, if you're using human people, if you're using cities, if you're using climate that exists on the Earth. Congratulations, you're not telling a fanciful story, you're just telling climate fatalist propaganda. That's it. In order to tell something that is detracted from reality enough where it doesn't become potentially, you know, a political analog, you have to move the characters, move the scenarios, move the situations to something that's so fantastical that we can't even really put any kind of perspective onto it or draw any perspective out of it. You know, kind of something like akin to Under the Skin, you know, a really good alien film. So I don't buy into the fact that it's not a political film. It is very much so a political film in that way. And I think the politics of the film are incredibly fucking stupid and bad. But the film is still good. I mean, at the end of the day, Wuthering You is like a 7 out of 10. It's the best thing. I mean, if you can see it in theaters, go see it. It's still the best thing that's out in terms of to watch for movies in America right now. Like, everything else is trash. Star Wars is trash. Underwater's trash. Cats is trash. The fucking Doctor Doolittle's gonna be trash. The fucking Bad Boys 14 is gonna be trash. Everything is all trash. This is still leaps and bounds better than everything else out there. And the only reason it's not higher is because, you know, the director made a previous movie in a very similar style that's better. That's the only reason the film, I feel, didn't work for me the way the other one did. But it's still a great fucking film. So you should see Weathering You, but just be aware that it has some issues. And that's all.